The importance of this week goes without saying. It is week 18 and the Dallas Cowboys are in full control of their entire destiny. We're talking about being able to take control of the number 2 overall seed in the NFC and also taking the NFC East division crown, which is exactly what we wanted from the beginning of the season. It doesn't matter exactly how we got here. Just know that this team has gotten here. What's going on, Cowboys fans, Cowboy Nation all around? This is going to be, again, the most important week for the Dallas Cowboys of this season, because we do know there are some major implications. And although this is a 4-12 Washington Commanders team, we do still have the history of what they did to us last year in the last game of the season heading into the postseason. Of course, circumstances are a little bit different. The Dallas Cowboys now are in full control of what they want to do. And we're not talking about a game that's looked at as more of just kind of a pre-playoff warm-up scrimmage or anything. This is going to be a game that the Dallas Cowboys is going to, if you're going to come out here and show that you're a serious team, although it's going to be against a 4-12 team, this is going to be the perfect chance for you to show that you're serious, because what good teams do, the best teams do, the championship contending teams do, you come out here and you take care of business against opponents that you should very well, I'm going to say comfortably, be able to handle. And this is the NFL. Game of inches. Any given Sunday, any matchup can be the one that can kind of catch you. I want to say catch you off guard or catch you slipping if you're not handling your business. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be able to show that the Washington Commanders are just a step in their way on the road to I just want to say a long playoff run, more specifically, but just being able to just show that this team is actually just not the same team of old. We do know at all points, as a Cowboys fan, you're naturally going to be pessimistic because we've seen things fall off the tracks at the worst most inopportune times. But the Cowboys have a chance to do something that they haven't been able to do in a while, if they're able to put things together once we get to the postseason. And it all starts with, I guess you want to say, with the milestones and the accomplishment, the mission that is ahead of them facing the Washington Commanders. The most important key to this game, or I'm going to say key number 1, is just the same. I'm going to say as simple as it's been the last few weeks. We already know, since the trajectory of seeing what Dak Prescott is this year, throwing for over 4,200 yards, 32 to 8 touchdown to interception ratio, leading the NFL in touchdown passes. Dak Prescott, I've spoken on, I've said myself, is my MVP. Obviously, of this team. This is not a team that you're going to be able to say they would even be reaching the same heights if you had anyone else at quarterback right now for this team. Dak Prescott has played the best out of the NFC quarterbacks, in my opinion, this year. And then if you're going to go, and again, we're talking about, obviously, even based on the circumstances, the offensive line has not played well this year. We can call it what it is. A lot of people get stuck kind of in the way that the Cowboys offensive line, they've been used to the Dallas Cowboys offensive line being talked about. But whether it's Tyron Smith not being able to just stay healthy in and out of the lineup, now Tyler Smith a little banged up, the team just having penalties. Tyler Biotish, up and down. He's a nice, solid player, but he is what he is at this point. Zach Martin, he's still we're talking about a Pro Bowl level player, obviously making the Pro Bowl this year, but are we still talking about all pro, perennial Hall of Famer? We know exactly he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but is he the same Zach Martin that we've become accustomed to? I can now see where we start to maybe tell off a little bit. He's still a very capable starter, let's be clear. Again, a Pro Bowl level for Zach Martin is what a lot of people on other teams would hope for, but and then let's go to Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele just has not been playing well this year. It is what it is. We're going to call it what it is. Terrence Steele, whether it's due to injury, whether Steele come back from the ACL injury, he just has not been as consistent as I personally hope for, and I'm sure everybody else kind of had the same thought process. That's why bringing in a guy like La'el Collins, we're not really sure what exactly he's going to be used as now. I think yesterday, when the contracts, the signing was official, we're talking about hearing from Mike McCarthy, and he believes La'el Collins is going to be getting some run in at left guard, possibly behind, see what the Tyler Smith situation is going to the postseason. And Mike McCarthy says this move was made more specifically for the postseason. So don't expect to see him playing in this game or anything, but we're going to have to get this O-line back to where it needs to be. But Dak Prescott has been able to make these plays. Even though we're having some of these issues, there's no run game. Our running game is pretty much non-existent. We can call it what it is. Tony Pollard has had, I think he's pushing about 930 yards, 935 rushing yards on the season. Surprisingly, because we have had some issues, whether it's with blocking or whether it's with guys just not being able to find the holes that we're needing to have a consistent run game and take some of his pressure off the passing game. Dak Prescott has had to weather the storm throughout the entirety of that. And again, that's something that I guess we can't say as Cowboys fans. There were some guys coming to the offseason that, of course, they were being added to the team, whether you're talking about through trades. Brandon Cooks has been a major step, and I'm going to say a major weapon in what Dak Prescott is, because obviously when we're running this West Coast type system, your quarterback is going to have lots of ability and lots of control over making checks and getting guys into better positions that they feel are going to help the team out. And Dak Prescott, to me, this is just the best year where you've seen him have an entire, I guess, season worth of watching Dak Prescott just play the quarterback position overall at an elite level. So I don't look for that to change at all in this Washington Commanders game. This is going to be a game where you're going to look to see CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott just completely be able to take over this game early. Hopefully we can get some more guys involved, because again, you want to have as many weapons as possible going to the playoffs. But if we ride that, I guess you want to say ride that formula, the Dak Prescott CeeDee Lamb combination, we're going to be in good hands to pull out a win in this game against the Commanders. And with Dak Prescott either being top 2, top 3, top 4 in all passing stats, then you're looking at CeeDee Lamb with 122 catches, 1,651 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. He's either sitting at the top or in the top 3 when it comes to touchdowns. I believe being tied for third in touchdown catches with Cortland Sutton with 10, and again being second right behind Tyreek Hill in receiving yards with 1,651, and leading the entire NFL by 10 catches, I believe, over Tyreek Hill with 122 receptions. CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, like I said, this is going to be one of those combinations that you just want to completely ride into the postseason. And also, let's not let up when the postseason begins. I just want to continue to see where CeeDee Lamb develops and continues to grow, because then again, this is going to be the first season where you've seen CeeDee Lamb be that dominant number one. We know what he was last year. He kind of started to cement that and write his name on there a little bit. But this year, he's completely solidified that he is that guy. We're talking about this is going to be a Pro Bowl, obviously, season for CeeDee Lamb, and an All-Pro, which is very believed that he's going to be one of those first-team All-Pro receivers. CeeDee Lamb, again, is just one of those guys. I'm proud to say that he is a Dallas Cowboy. He wears the 88 exactly the way it should be worn, and he plays the way that we used to do guys wearing 88 playing. So CeeDee Lamb, this is a guy I want to see Mike McCarthy not shy away from feeding over and over and over as the postseason gets here. It's going to be about getting on the hopping on the Washington Commanders as early as possible, letting some of these starters get some rest. But I'm going to say this is going to be a game where you're going to look up and say the Cowboys should pull away from the Washington Commanders fairly early. Hopefully we're not playing around, because we do know there are some things that the Dallas Cowboys have gotten themselves into that could be detrimental in this Washington Commanders game, because it is a rivalry game at the end of the day. So handle your business early. Do not play around with your food and see what the cards fall. Ron Rivera tried to make it a little bit of a mystery going into this game, I'm going to say, against the Dallas Cowboys. Ron Rivera tried to make it a mystery. Who's the starting quarterback? At first, it's Sam Howell, and then all of a sudden he takes those duties away and gives them to Jacoby Brissett, and then Jacoby Brissett ends up somehow with a hamstring injury. So then now Sam Howell takes over as the starting quarterback once again. I believe Jacoby Brissett may potentially be the backup going into this game, but at the end of the day, this is going to be a rivalry game. Do not be surprised. Ron Rivera is kind of on his last leg with the Washington Commanders. It's kind of believed around the league at this point. So do not be surprised if you see him pull out all kinds of stops in this game against the Cowboys. We're talking about Sam Howell. He's the gunslinger of the bunch. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett, to me, is the more... He'll kind of take that slower veteran approach to the game. Sam Howell is looking for big plays as much as possible. That's why coming into the season, I kind of had an idea of maybe Eric Bieniemy taking over play calling in Washington will kind of pay major dividends for a guy like Sam Howell, because he does have the arm to make some of these plays. But when you get the good Sam Howell, sometimes it's also followed by the bad Sam Howell. I believe over 3,700 yards passing this year for Sam Howell, which is, as for a good solid run of this season, he was leading the league in passing yards. But then again, when you're looking at Sam Howell, he has 20 touchdown passes, but also on the flip side, like I said, that gunslinger mentality, also 19 interceptions. So if you're getting after a guy like Sam Howell, which we saw happen early and often in the Thanksgiving game against Washington, which the Cowboys won that game 45-10, Sam Howell is going to be a guy you want to put pressure on, because he will definitely give you some chances to make plays. I believe Terry McLaurin leads the team with about 945 yards receiving, somewhere around there. So you're going to be able to see guys like that be able to be targeted. And if you're able to just key in and stay disciplined, Sam Howell's going to give you a couple opportunities coming down with a couple of turnovers. Look at DaRon Bland, still leading the NFL with 8 interceptions, but he has not had a pick in some weeks now. And that's obviously, we're talking about the way offenses are starting to approach the Cowboys a little bit more. That's why you saw Stephon Gilmore start to target, cover more of these, what you would kind of consider your standard wide receiver ones. And DaRon Bland, again, he's still a playmaking type athlete out there. So we've seen Jordan Lewis play major dividends, especially over the last couple of weeks. But you're looking at Jordan Lewis having a great game against the Detroit Lions. If we can bring some of that into the mix, then we're going to be good to go. But as long as you know, the Dallas Cowboys were always focused. And one of our our skill sets is being able to put pressure on quarterbacks. But at some point, you have to stay disciplined on the back end, which we do know. We've had some injuries to Malik Hooker. We have some injuries to some of these other guys back there. And the Cowboys have gotten themselves in trouble when it comes to some of these shootouts, just because it comes to with just staying disciplined and not getting out of what your assignment is. As long as we can do that, I feel we're going to be good to go. This is the game you can kind of see a Micah Parsons potentially come down with a sack or two and kind of rounding out the rest of his season heading into the postseason. DeMarcus Lawrence, a guy I felt was completely snubbed by and not making the Pro Bowl. It's kind of one of those things when you're looking at stats. Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence, his stats are not always going to just jump out at you. I'm guessing you want to say more so when we're talking about as a pass rusher. But when you're just looking at the pressures, you're looking at the constant just aggressiveness that he plays with. It's huge for the Dallas Cowboys. And this is a game DeMarcus Lawrence could potentially find himself in the mix. I just want this to be a team effort overall on the defensive side, because we have seen sometimes whether you're talking about a game like the Seattle Seahawks, which they have some capable playmakers, let's be clear. Sam Howell is good for any given week. So let's start there. At the end of the day, you have to respect your opponent. Yes, he is going to give you some opportunities, and sometimes he's going to try to take some chances he probably shouldn't. But if we're able to get after a guy like Sam Howell, or possibly a Jacoby Brissett, if Ron Rivera chooses to kind of switch things up a little bit going into the game, let's be clear, that's gonna be what the Dallas Cowboys are gonna get. I just don't say that bread and butter for this Week 18 matchup. Just be able to put some pressure on Sam Howell, kind of try to take the ball away if you can, and just be opportunistic, because we do know as long as the Dallas Cowboys offense is handling business on the other side of the ball, that's where pretty much we're going to start. And as long as this defense is able to not have to focus too much on the run game, which we start to have some issues, obviously, in the last month or so, especially when you talk about losing guys like Jonathan Hankins and how important he is to the interior of this D-line. As long as our offense can keep the Washington Commanders in, I guess you want to say, in aggressive mode, because they have to pass the ball a little bit to stay in the game, we're going to be good to go defensively. And as simple as it has always been, stop having bad penalties. I believe the Cowboys are top 2 in most penalized teams in the NFL this year. We've always had some issues we're talking about with discipline, but there have been some games this year where the Cowboys could find themselves in better positions if it wasn't just for bad penalties and just bad penalty timing. We have some bad penalties at the worst times. Whether officiating this year has been so out of control throughout the entire league, not just Cowboys games, throughout the entire league, and inconsistent. But the Cowboys have not helped themselves. This is not a game against the 4-12, once again, Washington Commanders. I will continue to state the 4-12 Washington Commanders. They're 4-12 for a reason. But if you do give teams like this a chance to breathe throughout the remainder of the game, and you're looking at third, fourth quarter, and it's still somewhat of a battle, I guarantee bad penalties will probably have had played a major part in the undoing of that. So the Cowboys have got to keep themselves out of bad positions, because we do know as long as the NFL has been played, sometimes you're going to find yourselves in these wild card games where you should be able to control an opponent, but you're not, because you let them hang around a little too late. So handle your business, stay disciplined, and the Cowboys should be good to go. A few other key notes quickly. The Cowboys, obviously, there was some interest in Dalvin Cook after Dalvin Cook and the New York Jets agreed on a mutual parting so that Dalvin Cook could somehow find his way onto a postseason roster for a team that's contending. And Dalvin Cook, I felt like there was some, I guess you want to say somewhat of a solid late season signing. If you're looking just to add a little depth potentially in case of emergency. He ends up signing with the Baltimore Ravens, so the Cowboys are now, we're going to completely have to rely on a guy that I feel still can be a major contributor in the postseason, Rico Dowdle. It's just about getting him healthy. We have not been able to run the ball, like I said, to the level that I know we hope for as a fan base, especially I'm going to say as a coaching staff. So if you're going to continue to have guys in the mix that are just going to be some of these guys that have already been on this roster, you're going to have to get major additions from guys like Hunter Lepke. We're going to have to get major production out of guys, and we're talking about major. I'm not saying any 100-yard games or anything like that, but we're going to need some solid production in conjunction with a guy like Tony Pollard from a guy like Rico Dowdle, because I don't believe Deuce Vaughn's going to be really anything of an X factor in the postseason. So Rico Dowdle is about getting him healthy because he's a hard runner. He's a guy I feel could definitely pay major dividends in the red zone. Rico Dowdle, Hunter Lepke. Do not quit on that kid, Hunter Lepke. I'm going to say that now because I feel like this is still year one. Some people are kind of forgetting that. Year two, year three, that's where I can see him start to get more, I guess, just involved in this offense specifically. As long as Mike McCarthy is going to be here, then you're going to be looking to see a Hunter Lepke improve. But the postseason, let's be clear, I do believe there are still opportunities to get some of these other guys that we haven't talked about too much involved in the running game. And as well, we're still going to be able to talk about the Dallas Cowboys had 7 Pro Bowlers this year. We can get into that real quick. The Pro Bowlers for the Dallas Cowboys, the 7 Pro Bowlers, I will say. Quarterback Dak Prescott, obviously. Wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, obviously. These are 2 guys that I'm going to believe are going to be all pros this year. And then you're looking at Zach Martin. Still, again, just whether it's out of respect or whatever it is, Zach Martin has found himself on the Pro Bowl team once again. And then when you're looking at now going onto the defensive side, you do know Micah Parsons, obviously. Deron Bland leads the NFL with 8 interceptions and has the NFL record for most interceptions returned for a touchdown. Pick sixes in NFL history. So Deron Bland is obviously going to find himself as another Pro Bowl player this year. And now looking to special teams, punter Brian Anger, and of course, Brandon Aubrey. 35 for 35 on field goals this year, has been a major weapon for this team. 60-yard kicks, 50-yard kicks, it doesn't matter. This guy has been just completely accurate and bullseye, and we appreciate it because what we're going to need is definitely him to keep up that production going into the postseason. So those are the 7 Dallas Cowboys Pro Bowlers. We are now going to focus clearly on the Washington Commanders. There's nothing else ahead of us. There's nothing else behind us. It's what's going to be focused to, I guess you want to say, what there is to focus on in week 18 because it has major implications for the postseason. It's going to be an interesting week. Let's say they are just bigger than the Dallas Cowboys. Continue, if you're a football fan, just NFL fan in general, watch the games because they're going to be very entertaining. There are lots of implications. I kind of had a video already a couple days ago talking about some of the potential playoff matchups for the Dallas Cowboys. So this thing is completely wide open. You still could potentially find yourself playing against teams like the Saints, the Rams, the Packers. You never know. So we're going to have to stay locked in, stay focused. But the Dallas Cowboys themselves have got to handle business first because none of that matters without a win versus the Washington Commanders. As always, I appreciate you guys. We are close to heading into the postseason. I believe there will be a live post-game reaction after this Washington Commanders game. Hopefully it goes well. I appreciate you guys for all the support. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share. And for sure, as always, like we always say, go Cowboys.